This video is brought to you by Devout Decals, makers of reusable Catholic art for your home altar, your bedroom, and your home classroom.
The attacks on the church from outside the church are increasing, as they frequently have been for the last few years. But they've taken a weird turn this year. There have been, in Canada, more parishes and some Catholics, some buildings for non-Catholic worship services that have mysteriously been destroyed, despite the fact that the allegations against the church in Canada have in fact proven to be false, as virtually every Catholic commentator told you they would be when they broke initially in 2021, I think it was. But now we have some different kind of attack on the church, and this is unfortunately something I've reported to you before, as we'll get to here in the second half of this video, but there seems to be now increasing numbers of men out there pretending to be priests to try to take advantage of the church, to take her wealth, and to essentially take advantage of the faithful, especially older faithful, who are likely to just trust a priest when they encounter someone who calls himself a priest. After all, as Catholics, we should be able to trust priests, shouldn't we? That has become a more complicated issue in the age of canceled priests and in the age of, or aftermath of the Ted McCarrick problem. But as a general rule, we should be able to trust priests, which unfortunately, for unscrupulous individuals out there, makes Catholics prime target for evil deeds. So, go to this story today, which comes to us from Info Vaticana, with this headline: a man arrested in Alicante for posing as a priest to defraud priests. The Alicante Civil Guard has arrested a man accused of posing as a priest to defraud other clerics. The arrest was carried out in Aiello de Malfede, a Valencian town, following a complaint filed by the parish priests of Catral and Bigastro churches, who claimed to have been defrauded of more than 15,000 euros. So this priest is going after, or this fake priest is going after other priests. Seems to be a dangerous gambit in my mind, because a priest should be able to spot another priest and see through them if they aren't the real deal. Even if that priest is a modernist, you'll still be able to tell that they are actually an ordained priest by your conversations with him, by watching them offer the mass, all sorts of other things. You'll be able to tell, at least in theory. And they eventually caught on to this fraudster, and they caught him, and he is in the hands of authorities. Let's go to the article so you can get an idea. Quote, during the investigation, it was discovered that the detainee, who used the fictitious name of Jose Sanchez, had a dozen legal claims pending in different courts in Spain for similar scams. In Asturias alone, he faced 9 accusations for scams committed in 2020 following the same modus operandi. Given his extensive criminal history, the Ontentiente court ordered his imprisonment. The arrested person, assisted by lawyer Francisco Gonzalez, took advantage of his right not to testify. However, he is still waiting to appear before the Orjuela court, which is investigating scams in the province. The scammer used a similar method each time. He appeared before the parish priest requesting help to supposedly visit his sick father in another town. To gain the trust of his victims, he put them in a telephone contact with the supposed priest, who corroborated his story. Unbeknownst to the parish priest, the supposed priest they were speaking to was the same man who posed as the son in distress. The first complaint was filed by the parish priest of Catral, who reported that in January a young man showed up at his house asking for money to visit his sick father in Salamanca. The parish priest, after speaking with the supposed priest of Salamanca, handed him 300 euros. Subsequently, he continued to receive calls informing him about the illness and death of his father, and the requested money to pay the inheritance tax, thus managing to obtain a total of 14,800 euros in 5 bank transfers. He also managed to defraud the priest of Bigastro of about 500 euros. The civil guard tracked the false identities used by the scammer until they found his whereabouts. The mobile phones used were in the names of foreign people who do not appear in the police databases. One of these holders had reported the loss of his identity document. The scammer not only usurped identities of priests, but also identities to open telephone lines and stay in hotels without revealing his true identity. The positioning of the phone led investigators to the province of Valencia, where he was hiding. The call log revealed numerous communications with other members of the clergy in the area, suggesting there could be more victims. In addition to the scams in Alicante, there are claims in Cadiz, Santander, Cordoba, Ciudad Real, Lugo, Palma de Mallorca, Huelva, León, Huesca, and Cangas de Narcea. End quote. This guy was prolific. He was going after priests, and fortunately, all too many of them didn't see through it. Now, they did that. They fell for it partially because his interactions with them were purely on the phone. Perhaps a good rule of thumb in the future for priests to avoid this kind of deception is to have the priest in question come offer Mass with him. That might be a good way to do it. It's unlikely that somebody trying to pull this kind of deception is going to be able to offer the Mass in any form, or to do so in a way that is even remotely convincing. Now, this story isn't unfortunately unique to Spain. Last year I reported to you this story, and it has been resolved. It was resolved about 6 weeks ago. So, get some good news here. Headline from USA Today. Man accused of pretending to be a priest to steal money across U.S. arrested in California. Published on the 17th of April of this year. It's always nice when we get a resolution to these kinds of news stories, because it means that obviously one less villain is out there trying to take advantage of little old ladies and other parishioners and, of course, priests and anybody else in the church who would be inclined to help somebody in need. As Catholics, we're called to help people in need, and to do so generally without judgment, as long as we know that we're going to help them with is actually going to be something that helps them and not cause them harm. Unfortunately, that leaves us open to a lot of people without scruples taking advantage of us. And they finally caught somebody who had been doing just this. It's from the article, quote, Police have arrested a man who they say posed as a priest to commit serial thefts across the country, from Southern California to Texas and New York. Malin Rostas, a 45-year-old New York resident with an outstanding felony burglary warrant in Pennsylvania, was arrested on April 10th by Riverside County Sheriff's deputies after investigators say Rostas had tried to steal from a church in the Moreno Valley, about 60 miles southeast of Los Angeles. He was arrested at the outstanding warrant and charged on Tuesday with intent to defraud and stealing stolen property in connection with the Moreno Valley incident, according to court records obtained by USA Today on Wednesday. Rostas has pleaded not guilty. His attorney, Mike Flory, declined to comment on his client's behalf on Wednesday. Authorities say that Rostas is behind a series of thefts at churches across the country and posed as a visiting priest to gain access to private areas. In October, a person calling himself Father Martin and identifying himself as a visiting priest visited 6 parishes in the Dallas area and was able to steal several $100s from a parish in Houston. Diocese of Dallas spokeswoman Katie Kaiser told the Catholic News Agency. Rostas is accused of taking $500 from a priest's wallet at the Houston church, according to New York Times. He claimed he was a visiting priest from Chicago and that he had been staying in the rectory and left his keys in one of the rooms, a Houston police spokesperson told the Times. He is also accused of stealing $6,000 worth of jewelry from a woman at the Holy Name Retreat Center in Memorial Villages, Texas, and $900 from a person at American Martyrs Church in New York. End quote. Petty thief by comparison to the other, from the sound of it, but still, he has been captured and his reign of thievery has come to an end, and hopefully he repents and sees the errors of his ways. If there's a priest anywhere near in that area, it would be good for a priest to maybe go visit the man. There's a very good chance that he's a lapsed Catholic. In fact, I would guess in both of these stories, they're lapsed Catholics. After all, why would they go after priests in general unless they have some serious animosity towards the church? And you'll be hard-pressed to find somebody with greater animosity towards the Catholic Church than those of former Catholics. That's, unfortunately, sad truth in the reality of the situation in the world today. If you've ever argued with a Protestant online who talked about how evil the Catholic Church is, you dig a little deeply and you'll find out that they were raised Catholic before they were, quote, saved through the heresies of our so-called separated brethren. But I'm curious what you have to say about this. Are you surprised at all that that these kinds of things seem to be quietly ramping up a little bit, that there are more cases of these popping up everywhere? Are you in Spain and aware of more details of the story that I left out? Let me know in the comments, please. Hey, like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. So does sharing this on social media. That helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.